Here are sweet little fennel seeds. I have a special place in my heart for fennel seeds because my children, since they were babies, always thought that they were like nature's candy. Even when they couldn't walk, they would crawl over to the fennel bushes and taste little bits of the fennel leaves or the fennel flowers or the fennel seeds or the fennel bulb. All of it is medicinal and tasty and delicious. So I don't use fennel as much as I do some other plants, but I feel like it's great to include because it's a wonderful spice and it brings such a lovely sweetness. It has a little bit of a bitterness and a wonderful sweetness to it. So I think of fennel as a great herb and spice for babies and children especially. You know, you're often going to be using fennel in this whole seed form because when you powder it, it doesn't last long. It turns kind of yellow and gets bitter. But these whole seeds, they can even be tasty to chew on. You might see them sometimes outside of Indian restaurants where people will have a little bit of them at the end. And so, you know, crushing them up or adding them to food can give a really nice sweetness. And they are a superior digestive herb. Just absolutely wonderful for constipation, digestive upsets, any type of situation where you would want a carminative. Say the word fennel. Fennel is just, it's fantastic stuff in that. And there was even a wonderful research study that they looked at people who had moderate to severe constipation. And instead of the laxatives, they actually gave them quite a bit of fennel. And they found that it regulated their bowel tone optimally. And people were saying that they weren't constipated anymore. So when we think about herbal laxatives, we think about things that are often stimulating or bulking, but actually fennel is a whole nother option that you can think about that can help to regulate bowel tone. So how to use fennel? I often find you can put the whole thing into things as long as you don't mind chewing on little seeds like I'm doing right now, but you'll notice it's there. You can also saute fennel in a little bit of oil for a little while till it's toasted and then scrape the seeds out and discard them. You can also crush them up in a mortar and pestle and make them that way. I'll be showing you a recipe that uses quite a bit of fennel in a little while, and it's absolutely delicious. So if you haven't fooled around with fennel and you have gas or bloating, constipation, or other types of digestive disharmony, then fennel might be the perfect herb for you. And of course, it's wonderful as a tea. We're talking about cooking with spices today, so I didn't mention that, but yes, you should be making fennel tea while you're cooking with your fennel, and you can go ahead and drink that. It's sweet and wonderful. And one other tip, fennel comes through really well in breast milk. So if you're a person who is lactating, it can be really helpful for the babe on the other end of that to get that delicious fennel, and milk can be a little bit sweet and that can be excellent. And even it can be very helpful for babes who are bottle feeding or formula feeding to have a little bit of a small amount of fennel infused. Go ahead and check with your midwife or practitioner for a little bit more information about that if you're working with a young baby. But older babies, especially those who are already consuming food, fennel infusion can be absolutely wonderful for dysbiosis in babies and children, and it's sweet and tasty. Cumin is an interesting herb because I often associate an herb with a particular region of the world or a particular type of cuisine, but cumin is used, I would say, equally embraced and central to Latin American cuisine, like Mexican cuisine, and then also in South Asian cuisine and Indian cuisine, as well as some North African cuisines. So there's a lot of cumin used out there. You'll find cumin in two forms. You'll find it in little seeds, and then you'll find it ground. I actually keep both on hand because I use them very differently. When I'm cooking like Mexican and Latin American cuisine, I'm often using the ground. And when I'm cooking Indian cuisine, I will sometimes use more of the seeds. And they aren't as large as fennel. You can still notice them in food, but you can definitely use the seeds and you don't have to grind them. One of the things that you can do with cumin, because it does need to be cooked, is that you can add it whenever you're like sauteing a lot of onions to make chili or something like that, or you can toast them in a pan before you add veggies and so on. But they do better. Cumin does better when it's heated and toasted, and it gets really aromatic and very delicious. So I love like potatoes that have some cumin on them, so you can saute a little bit of like ghee or onion or something like that. If you're making like home fried potatoes, sorts of things. And then you can add some cumin into that hot oil and toast that in a cast iron pan, and then go ahead and add your veggies or potatoes or whatever you like to add there. So lots of use for cumin, and it's just wonderful for digestive support and digestive health. It's warming, but it doesn't have kind of the sweetness that fennel has, and it's definitely not spicy. So it can be really nice for gas and bloating and digestive challenges. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of research out there on cumin. I always think there should be so much more, but there isn't. But there is one really interesting paper. So this paper took a large group of folks who were trying to lose weight. They were overweight and they were trying to lose weight. And they developed a study that had 3 arms. There was one arm that was the pharmaceutical Orlistat 120, one arm that was cumin, and one arm that was a placebo. So if you had asked me about this ahead of time, I would have said, yeah, no. I mean, I don't see why this would possibly work out well. But amazingly, the cumin had the same effects as the Orlistat 120 by just adding that into their diet, which I thought was incredible. So if you have a little bit of digestive stuff going on, gas and bloating, and you are, you fooled around with mint and you like it, or, chamomile, things like that, this is going to be a little stronger, a little bit more aromatic. It's going to be wonderful in your savory foods. So definitely check out cumin and try adding a little bit more cumin to your diet. Get to know it a little bit because it is delicious and scrumptious stuff.